Deep dive time. And you guys know I love a good deep dive. This time, you wanted to take a closer look at Jeff Bezos. Well, buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride. We're talking about someone who went from online book selling to, well, basically owning a piece of everything.
Yeah, you weren't kidding about the wild ride, were you? I mean, some of this stuff, just incredible.
Right. And we got some requests to see the sources in another language, too, which, by the way, major kudos to you guys for digging that stuff up. So let's get into it. This whole rags to riches thing, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, so that's where things get interesting. It's funny, these sources kind of paint, well, a kind of contradictory picture, you know?
How so?
Well, on the one hand, you got stories about Bezos driving around in a Honda Accord. Can you imagine? A multi-billionaire just cruising around like a regular Joe.
Okay, I gotta admit, that's pretty down to earth. You'd think someone with that kind of cash would have, like, a fleet of sports cars or something.
Right, but then you read on and you see this trillion-dollar car collection.
Wait, $1 trillion? Come on, that has got to be some journalistic exaggeration, right?
You're probably right. A little bit of hyperbole never hurt anyone, right?
Probably not when you're selling headlines.
Exactly. But still, even if it's not literally $1 trillion, it's obviously a pretty crazy collection.
That's an understatement. So is that the contradiction? The Honda versus the supercars?
I think it's more than that. It's like he's trying to be relatable, you know, like, hey, I'm just a regular guy who likes to drive a sensible car. But then there's this other side, this almost untouchable level of wealth
Yeah.
that kind of peeks through, you know, especially when you look at his real estate.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about the real estate. Like, that Beverly Hills mansion, 2 guest houses, it's practically its own zip code.
I know, right? It's a prime example of how real estate becomes more than just a place to live when you hit a certain level. It's a statement, you know, it's about influence, about owning a piece of something bigger than yourself.
And he definitely seems to get that. Like with the former textile museum in D.C., that's owning a piece of history right there.
Totally. It's like he's not content with just inhabiting spaces. He wants to shape them. It's really fascinating.
It really is. And speaking of fascinating spaces, we have to talk about the Hawaiian estate. I mean, talk about a dream getaway.
Right. I mean, paradise doesn't even begin to describe it.
Okay, so we've got the mansion, the historical landmark, the Hawaiian getaway.
Yep.
But then we've also got a Texas ranch. It's like he's got a foot in 2 completely different worlds.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it about those two places? The luxurious seclusion of Hawaii and then, well, whatever you do on a massive Texas ranch.
Maybe he's just a man of many interests, you know? Or maybe, and stay with me here, maybe it's all part of some master plan.
A master plan, huh? I like where this is going.
Right, like each property is a piece on a chessboard, carefully positioned for something. But before we dive into that rabbit hole, can we talk about the super yacht? The Koru, $500 million. That's not a yacht, that's a small country.
500 million, I know. It's insane. And you know what's even more interesting? The name. Koru. It's a Maori word, means new beginnings.
Okay, you're blowing my mind right now. New beginnings. So it's not just a ridiculously expensive boat, it's a symbol.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially with Bezos stepping down from Amazon around the same time the yacht was finished.
Okay, so we have Koru, new beginnings. Is he sailing off into the sunset? What's he starting over with?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? A pretty good question, right? And the timing, it is kind of sus, right? I mean, new yacht, new Bezos out of Amazon. Seems like more than a coincidence, you know?
It's like he's saying, see you later to the whole online shopping thing and hello to, well, what exactly?
Well, he's definitely got his sights set on something.
Yeah.
And it's a little closer to the stars, so to speak. But we got to talk about Blue Origin.
Oh, yeah, his little space company. I mean, it's not exactly a secret, right? But is it serious? Or is it more of a billionaire's heir vanity project?
Oh, no, I wouldn't call it a vanity project at all. This is about, like, serious ambition. Like reaching for the stars, literally. I mean, Blue Origin, they're not just talking about space tourism. They're talking about, like, pushing the boundaries of human space exploration, you know?
So not just a quick trip up and back down again. He's talking about, like, actually living in space.
Right, like making space more accessible. Some of these reports even mentioned establishing a permanent human presence beyond Earth. Permanent.
Whoa, okay, that's a whole other level of wow. It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Like all his other stuff, all this wealth we've been talking about, it's almost like it's all just, I don't know, leading up to this.
It's a good point. Like, are those extravagant purchases just him enjoying his fortune? Or are they like strategic investments in a future where humanity is out there among the stars. It's a
Right.
wild thought.
Okay, now my head is spinning. So the mansion, the island, the yacht, it's all just a stepping stone to a space station. What about the ranch? Where does that fit in?
Yeah. Well, some people are speculating that the ranch, the Texas ranch, could be, a testing ground for Blue Origin tech.
Oh, right. With all that wide open space and privacy, I can see that.
Right. Or even potentially a launch site for future missions.
Hmm.
Who knows?
Okay, now that's just too cool. But what about those cars? I can't let that go. Don't get me wrong, I kind of respect the Honda Accord. Maybe he is just a practical guy at heart, but a Koenigsegg, whatchamacallit.
The Koenigsegg CCXR Trevita.
Yeah, that one. Only three in the world. Come on, that's got to be about more than just liking fast cars.
Well, some analyses suggest that the more extravagant stuff, the super yacht, the supercars, those are carefully chosen to project a certain image.
Image, what are we talking about?
It's about crafting a persona,
Hmm.
someone audacious, someone who takes risks, someone who pushes boundaries.
So he's not just spending money, he's sending a message.
Right, and whether that message is conscious or not, it's definitely being received. I mean, think about it.
Okay, I am thinking. So he's got the whole new beginnings thing going on with the yacht, the ambition of Blue Origin, and now this image of a guy who breaks boundaries. Is he trying to inspire people?
Maybe. It's like he's saying, hey, look what's possible. If I can do this, just imagine what we can achieve together.
Whoa, that is actually kind of genius. You know, I almost forgot about his whole Washington Post thing. He bought a newspaper.
He did. Don't forget about that. I mean, that move, more than any other,
Yeah.
says, hey, I want to shape public discourse.
You're right. I mean, he's not just buying stuff, he's building a platform. And not just for himself, for ideas.
It really is incredible when you think about it.
It is. So he's buying newspapers, launching rockets, sailing around in a $500 million.
New beginnings.
Right, new beginnings. Okay, I am convinced this is more than just a billionaire and his toys. This is about, like, ambition on a whole other level.
It really is. And, you start to see this theme, this kind of through line, right? You got Amazon revolutionizing retail. You got Blue Origin literally trying to take us to the stars. The Washington Post influencing how we see the world.
And it all kind of comes back to him, like he's the common denominator in all these huge world-changing endeavors. I mean, it makes you think, what's the end game here?
Right. Like, what is it all for? Is it legacy? Is it about securing his place in history as something more than just, the Amazon guy?
Or is it about something bigger? Like, does he really believe he can change the world?
Maybe he does. Or maybe he just likes a challenge. I mean, the guy clearly isn't afraid of taking risks. But that's the thing, isn't it? We can speculate all day long about his motivations, but at the end of the day, only Jeff Bezos knows what Jeff Bezos is really thinking.
That's true. He plays things pretty close to the chest, doesn't he?
He does, but that's part of what makes him so fascinating, right? He's like a walking, talking riddle wrapped in a rocket ship launched from a super yacht.
Okay, I'm using that. But seriously, you're right. There's so much we still don't know about the guy.
Exactly. And maybe that's the point. He's in control of the narrative, right? He decides what we see, what we talk about.
It's like he's a master puppeteer and we're all just along for the ride.
And what a ride it's been. I mean, we went from talking about a Honda Accord to a potential future among the stars.
We really did, didn't we? And, I have a feeling this is just the beginning of the Bezos story. Who knows what wild ventures he'll dream up next? But hey, whatever it is, we'll be here to dive into it. Until next time, Deep Dive fans, keep those requests coming.